Yooka-Laylee's Kickstarter just wrapped up a few days ago, and Tom and I were fortunate enough to meet up with Andy Robinson and Grant Kirkhope from Playtonic Games during E3 to discuss their recent success and find out more about the development of Yooka-Laylee. So let's dive right on in.
My name's Andy Robinson. I'm a writer, I think.
Exactly. My name's Grant Kirkhope, or in America, Grant Kirkhope, and I'm the composer working on Yooka-Laylee at the moment. Yes.
He's the guy who does the tunes that aren't the David Wise ones.
That's right. I do the tunes that Steve Mells complains about.
Alright, congratulations guys, first off, on reaching all your goals for your Kickstarter. That is fantastic. So what is next? Like, what do you have immediately planned for the near future now that your Kickstarter is a success? What's coming up next for you guys?
We're considering making a game now.
Allegedly.
Yeah, it's going to be, you know, it's kind of set the agenda and the expectations so high, and obviously now we have a commitment to make the game great. The next time you'll see the game, it will look, you know, a hell of a lot more amazing than it does now. So we're going to be heads down and we're going to work on the game. And obviously we're going to keep a dialogue with the community, and where, you know, that's how you run an independent studio today, you know, in my opinion. So, you know, we maintain a dialogue and we keep showing you cool stuff, but the next time you're going to see a big reveal for us, like actual game, is going to be, you know, when it's ready to show.
And how has your E3 been so far, showcasing Yooka-Laylee? I guess basically for the first time, right? Or for the most part, at a trade show, I suppose, right?
Yeah, it's the first time, really. I mean, we've just been like doing interviews like solidly for 2 days, so it's been a little bit overwhelming. And I think the whole Kickstarter thing was also equally overwhelming, you know, because it finished yesterday while we were at the show.
Right.
So, you know, it's been really, you know, for people to put their hands in their own pockets to like get us to make a game is like, it's really beyond words, really. It's like, it's such a heartwarming thing, and we really want to try, you know, super hard to make the game that people have pledged their money to see. So, you know, all that stuff's on our shoulders right now, so we're kind of a little bit overwhelmed, I think, by the whole thing.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
Now I do have one question. So the day before your Kickstarter ended, Shenmue 3 Kickstarter was announced. Was that a good thing or a bad thing, do you think, for I guess, well, Kickstarters in general as opposed to yours
I think
specifically?
any attention to Kickstarter is good, right? And I think sometimes it gets a bit of a negative press, but if it gets games made that people want to play,
Shenmue 3.
Yeah, but and it cuts out the huge corporate middleman, then I'm all for it, really, because I think sometimes you need to remove the corporate part of it to get some games made, because some games wouldn't get made by corporate entities, you know. So it's nice to see the Kickstarter thing, that it is a worthwhile medium and it does work.
Some of the most anticipated, most demanded games ever have been green-lit in the last couple of years through Kickstarter.
Yeah.
You know, let's see if they all come to fruition. I hope so.
Yeah. Now they say having a Kickstarter is sometimes like having a full-time job already. Do you feel that it might have stalled development a bit, or was that hard to do during Kickstarter?
No, absolutely not. I've handled a lot of it for the team, and they've, you know, actually very early on, because we planned that far ahead and we kind of knew the assets that we had, you know, to kind of help us along. The guys were able to actually concentrate on making the game, you know, so, you know, got a fair distance through the campaign. Yeah, the planning played off in that regard, I guess, and also there's probably a benefit from the fact that we destroyed all of our funding in the first day. It was kind of like, well, you know, we had a commitment that we didn't want to risk the project with bloat and overpromise, and, you know, compromise ourselves with risk of you know, perhaps promising you know, additional features that are going to cost money and resource. And so we were able to say, you know, well, the next stretch goal is going to be to pay something back to your amazing support with DLC that we're only going to think about and work on after the game's release. So they were able to go, all right, like, you know, leave me to make the penis gags on the Kickstarter, and then they can work on the game.
Oh, you can go.
No, I was just going to say, like the orchestra too, like all the extra stuff is stuff that doesn't tax the dev team. Like the orchestra doing my responsibility, I have to sort that out and do all that stuff. So that's not going to affect the dev at all.
Okay.
So like, it's, you know, because I think overscoping is the biggest killer of games without a doubt. So like, we're really cognizant that well, yeah, it's good. Yeah, that's a good word. That we're not going to overscope it. We're going to keep it really, really tight and make sure we can deliver on it. You know.
some Kickstarters go dark, but can we? You said you'll sort of show off the next character when it's ready, but can we expect regular updates as development progresses?
Absolutely. You can expect regular updates. I mean, we will carry on a dialogue with the fans, and you can expect new stuff. Of course you can. We're not going to go totally dark, but in terms of there have certainly been elements that we've had to show in fairness to our Kickstarter backers. We felt a responsibility that when we launched the Kickstarter, that you could see what we'd worked on so far.
Right.
So that it's not just a fabrication, and we're working on a real game, and this is an example of what we can do in just a few months. So there is certainly an element of that. It just means now we can show the things that, not that we haven't done beyond that, but we can 100% show only the things that we are absolutely happy with. And the game itself, I imagine that you won't see a playable game now until we're ready to show something that's going to prove to you that we're going in the right direction.
But I do think that it's really important to maintain a kind of contact with the Kickstarter people, because they've got a stake in it, I think, really, and it's important to try to keep that going so people get excited, like we're going to get excited, about making the game in general. So I think it's a cool thing to do, and I think it really matters. I think it's a thing that we should do.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's great to hear. Right.
Yeah.
Now, one of the goals, or your final goal, your stretch goal you met on the Kickstarter was one for upcoming DLC, and what was it, polished to the nth degree, I believe. Have you thought about what the DLC might encompass, perhaps, or is that just down the line and you'll worry about when you get to it?
We're not thinking about it until after the game's out. I mean, we know that's important to gamers today. That there've been a lot of examples in the past where people have been burnt by that stuff, and it's honestly, we've put that there because it's like, well, we're satisfied with what we have and the plan that we have, and they've the backers have allowed us to make this game to our dream specification. Anymore is just bloat and risk. So we want to give something back, and we're not going to worry about that until after the game
right.
comes
out. So you recently showed off another screenshot of the hub world, showing, I believe, the entrance into a level, right? The book world. Can you tell us a little bit more about the hub world, like how exactly it's going to work? And based on the screenshots, it looks like it's like an industrial cave almost.
It certainly is one area of the hub world.
I see.
Yeah.
We're going to continue the the theme and the tone of some of the past games the team have worked on, where it will feel believable, like a place, but it also have a big variety of areas where you can kind of access these worlds. So the cave is only one place of a much bigger hub world.
Right. And you also, not too long ago, showed off the Ghost Rider collectible. I think they're called the Ghost Riders, right? Yeah. And they seem, similar, but an expanded concept of the Jinjos or banjo-kazooie.
Jinjo! I did that voice.
Can you give us a sneak preview of what they're a sneak preview of what they must sound like?
Ghosties!
There we go. Perfect.
That's like ghosties!
I think I've done some words for them already. I think they're supposed to be like a little bit cheeky, like mischievous, naughty ghosts.
So each of them have their own personality too, then?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah, we're going to have I think we showed that from this stage. I mean, it's worth stressing all of this that we are very early in the
right.
I mean, we've come very quick in a short span, but it's still early. But at this stage, we've shown that we have 5 different designs, and the plan at this stage is to have them have different personalities and a different style of gameplay. Let's see how that evolves through development.
Right, yeah, because I think you mentioned they're going to be a little bit more interactive than the Jinjos were, which just stood around for the most part, but it sounds like there might be a little bit more to these guys.
Yeah. They're not going to stand and wave, a little bit more than that.
I was just wondering what the sort of mentality will be about the game's final release date. Do you plan on sort of having a release window at some point, or sort of the when it's done? Finish it when it's done.
October next year is the kind of the release date.
Okay.
And that's what we're certainly shooting for.
All right.
So that'll be.
We've made every plan and precaution to make that realistic. We hear a lot of people asking for physical versions of the game, and that's a big part of the reason why we haven't at this stage offered that. Purely because if we were to do that, we would lose 2 months from that development, because we would have to send it for certification. So yeah, we've made every precaution to make that realistic.
Well, you've definitely finished a ton in just 3 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
I mean, if only you could, be at the studio now and see what else they've come up with. It just moves so quickly.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask about the music for a second.
All right.
We've heard examples of music that's similar in the same vein of Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze and banjo-kazooie. Can we expect some other styles of music in the game, maybe in the end?
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of writing that jungle tune for me was to try to compress every banjo-kazooie ism into one piece of music.
Yeah.
To kind of ignite everyone's kind of nostalgia feels for the kind of whole thing, but it won't all be like that. I think we wanted to make sure people understood what we were trying to do, so the game looks the way it does right now and it sounds the way it does right now, to kind of make sure that spiritual thing from behind us is apparent to everybody. Yeah. But we are looking forward. It's a new game. It's not a retro game. It's new. So I think that for me, I've done a little kind of teaser of the Glacier tune too, which is less so like Banjo-Kazooie. So I think I'm gonna do things that will hopefully pull from the right elements of Banjo-Kazooie music, but still infused with new stuff. Because hopefully I'm a better composer now than I was then. Hopefully, I can't guarantee that. It's going to be. It's just going to be one of those things where pulling the right pieces that not exact notes, but give you that same kind of inspiration or that same kind of feeling of being back in those worlds. But it's familiar, but not a rip-off. Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah.
So, Grant, I believe you live in California. Is that
I do.
Right?
I live here in LA. Yeah.
Well, that's convenient for you three, right?
Yeah.
So, what's it like to? I used to work actually out of the Rare office, right? So, what's it like to work remotely on this project, and how does that affect development? Like, are you provided with assets before to give you an idea of what to work with, or what to write the song for, or do they just tell you the general theme and you write the song to that? Can you explain the development process?
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff really. I think you get to see some stuff, talk to Gav, talk to Andy, talk to anybody at the team, look at the animations, all that kind of thing, So, but I do think any composer worth the soul, if someone says to them, it's a haunted forest, I'm going to start thinking about spiky instruments, a haunted ice forest, like say spiky instruments and all that kind of thing. So I think that all that kind of thing goes on. But I mean, working remotely, I've worked for a lot of people, different companies remotely. I don't think it matters at all. I think for some things, like being a sound effects guy, it's great to be in the office. It's great to be there. But if you just write music, you can write it in Timbuktu. I think I don't think it really matters because you can get enough to look at, and just your internet. You can send an MP3 in 10 seconds, right? And Gav can go, I like it, I don't like it, or Steve Mills can complain about it as he always does, something like that, and then I can change it and send it back again and change, so it's almost better than having to go up the corridor to the office and drag Greg out to come and see it, and then he'll moan about it as well, so it's almost quicker in a way.
Right.
So no, it's no problem at all. It's no different really.
Okay. Now you have 3 classic Rare composers working on Yooka-Laylee, which I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of amazing. Are you guys planning to collaborate at all on any songs together, or are you all doing your own thing basically? I
think we kind of write different styles. We've all got our own little style that we have. So it's without going into too much detail. Like it's obvious to us like which parts of the game suits which guy. So there's things that will obviously be right for Dave and be right for me and be right for Steve. So it's going to be that's going to be. So we don't we know each other really well. So there's no arguing. It's just obvious that that's your bit, that's my bit, that's his bit. It's going to be like that. So it's going to be easy. Like it's going to be great fun. I mean, it's great to be work with people again, and it's just like the good old days,
So with the different styles, are you kind of planning to maybe use them in a specific way in the game, like maybe one style is for good and one style is for evil, sort of thing, or anything like that?
It's not like that, but there is something. I mean, I don't want to go into detail about that, do I?
No.
So
what we've said is that we have a plan.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Like I said, there's some. It's going to be obvious, right, when you see it.
Yeah.
Some bits are great for Dave. Some bits are great for me. Some bits are great. So it's going to be like that. So.
Okay. And we've heard you've played the ukulele a lot since the game's been announced.
I don't know about a lot.
Not a lot. So
I've played it a bit.
Not a ukulele master yet, then?
Far from it.
Okay.
I know one. I can play Sparrow Mountain.
Yeah.
And I can probably play Click Clock Woods probably.
Oh yeah.
That's about it.
Okay. And just for Andy, for the writing now, can we expect a similar amount of writing that was in Banjo-Kazooie, or perhaps even more writing in the game for dialogue and stuff?
I'd say probably similar. I mean, we've committed to being the game will be bigger than the original Banjo-Kazooie for sure, which I guess means there'll be more characters than that. I mean, we're very wary of having a balance in terms. I mean, more isn't always better, right? I mean, we've got team members who worked on like DK64 and obviously like banjo-tooie, and there's elements of those who some people feel like there was too much stuff. So we need a balance. It's certainly been a lot of fun with coming up with lots of crazy characters with the team.
And I'm guessing Yooka-Laylee will they'll speak in the game as well, or I mean not verbally, but they'll like Banjo-Kazooie did.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Something like that. Yeah.
Can you describe their personalities a little bit, like how Yooka and like, what their dynamic is and how they'll?
Well, they're the odd couple. She's a bit crazy and has a short temper, and he's kind of like the everyman, like nice guy that the player can kind of project themselves onto.
I mean, Andy, really.
Yeah. So it's like as if when you play the game, you have the kind of the devil and the angel on each shoulder.
Right.
Like, one person saying this guy's an idiot, and the other guy going, no, be nice.
But also, it's super important for us to get that kind of humour into the game, because that was a big part of the Banjo games. That kind of, I guess it's a bit kind of Brit humour in a way. And I think that we really want to make sure that that's still there, because people love that stuff,
Right.
And it's just us messing around between each other, sending daft emails to each other and insults and all that we've done for years. That hasn't changed a bit. So it's never changed. So it's trying to get all that stuff back in there, because that's a really important part, I think, of it. Not just the playing of it, but the humour of it all.
Right.
It's a dynamic within the team. I mean, nothing's off limits. Artists can have a say in design, and programmers can have a say in art, and nothing is off limits, and everyone contributes ideas and bounces off each other, and they've proven success with that in the past. I mean, we come up with funny characters together, and ideas for like funny scenarios for writing, and like we came up with like as an example, we said wouldn't it be really funny if like Laylee was scared of the dark, like a bat who like wouldn't go in a cave, and like then you might have a gameplay reason to like maybe like get a torch or like a glowing light, and
you have to say flashlight here, you can't say torch. Sorry. Flashlight in America.
What's a torch?
Exactly.
It says stick with fire.
Yeah,
that's what I meant.
Oh, sorry, I thought like a flashlight.
Oh
my god.
Why would you have a flashlight?
I'm going to Americanise, so I can't help it. Grand Kirkhope.
You could just popping down Best Buy to get like a flashlight, yeah?
Alright, let's see your cheek.
Well, speaking of characters, actually, how do you design? Does the character's design come from the personalities you want to give them, or is it vice versa? Do you like design the character and then give them personality that you think fits their appearance?
No, there's definitely ideas. Like with Trouser, we had the character down. Like we knew he was just a bit of a loser. like Flash Git, who thought he was the bee's knees. Have I used too many Britishisms there?
I think no one's going to get Flash Git. No one's going to get bee's knees.
Yes,
right.
he thinks he's great. He thinks he's the best salesman like in the entire game. But he's not. It's just a bit rubbish. So
rubbish.
You can see
how.
Can't
say rubbish. Trash.
Right.
Don't worry.
I should have brought.
So people will get some of it. Well, actually, I guess speaking of Trouser, have you like what exactly is his role in the game? I mean, he sells stuff, obviously.
Yeah, he's the guy who does the moves. Yeah, he's the new bottles.
Oh, the ball. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that how the Playtonics play into it too, or
the Playtonics?
The Playtonic gameplay?
Yes. No, not necessarily. No, they might be separate. I mean, he's the guy who's going to teach you the moves, and we've already got him going, and he's already quite funny. Like he'll be like, "I'll do it like this," and he'll just sort of like sliver a bit, and he'll be like, "What's that all about?" Like,
that sounds great. So you actually purchase them from him then? Is that like the coins you collect in the game?
We've not worked that out.
Okay, gotcha. Now speaking of Playtonics, actually, or getting back to that, I know you said earlier that we would never know what came first, the name for the Playtonics or your studio name. So I have to ask, what came first?
Studio name.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me put that to bed.
Well, you're mentioning everyone collaborates. So, for instance, if you had an awesome song for a certain type of level, would they make a level for that song?
Probably not. I mean, everybody's obviously can comment on anything in the game, but no one comments on the music. That's me only.
Okay.
I
think we probably would. Like, if you made like an amazing like scary tune,
which I may do, of course.
so it's like, where can we put that? Like,
yeah, maybe, but I think usually it usually comes the other way around. They'd say we've got this to do, and I'll write something like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I don't really think I've ever written something first.
Grant is way too expensive to just go off and make a tune.
Absolutely,
He's
I'm
not
well worth it.
Unless you pay him a lot of money.
Yes, a lot of money. I think that when I first started working on Dream, I think I wrote quite a lot of music like without any kind of spec.
Yeah.
And just did it because I wanted to try and get on not get on the project, but I wanted to just get started with it. So I did write some tunes without any instruction. But that's maybe the only time I think I've ever done it. Usually I'll write to spec, so they'll say we need this or this or this, and I'll do that.
Yeah.
So probably that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And Andy, for the writing, when they're creating a level, do they give you sort of an idea of what to do, or is it a constant back and forth and evolution between?
As I mentioned before, it's a collaboration. I mean, not yet have they really said, just go off and do this. It's always a collaboration together, where usually I'll sit down with Gavin, who's our creative lead and is designing the game. And we'll like have a brainstorm, we'll bounce off each other. Like a lot of our best stuff so far has come from that, like going for a coffee and saying, wouldn't this be funny? And oh, that's great, you could do this from that as well. Oh yeah, like I said, like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if Laylee was scared of the dark? And then then you could do that would fit into this scenario or this move, and we could have a challenge for that. And that's kind of how it works.
I think all that kind of process, right? It's not scheduled. It's just one of the things that just happens. You start talking about something, it just leads you down that alleyway or that alley or like that. I think that's the best way to do it. Like when you start going, let's have a brainstorm meeting to do this, it just never works, right? You all sit there going, what about, it's like a bit like that. So it's way better just to kind of have that off the cuff things. That's the way it was back when we did it before.
Yeah.
It was just that kind of stupid inhuman that we used to have that used to spark an idea or whatever, the rhyming thing, McGrunty, all that kind of thing just came out of nothing, so
that's how the team works, and that's how the team has always worked, is they want to have the creativity have enough air to breathe and evolve naturally, because the argument is if you have a big overarching strict plan and structure, then you're kind of killing a lot of the natural evolution of ideas, where one idea might lead to another and lead to another even more great idea.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to force an idea at a certain time as opposed to just to have it pop in your head kind of thing. Well, speaking of grunty rhyming, can you give us a hint at the villain if maybe it'll have another verbal quirk?
Who knows?
I think I might have said this to you guys before. I mean, the thing I will say on that is that, and Grant kind of hinted at it earlier, is that for the Kickstarter, it was really important that we had all the banjo-kazooie-isms up front and centre to show the fans that, this is, the stuff that they want to see, and this is what we can still do. But we're not satisfied on trading on nostalgia. We're making a spiritual successor. We're not making a knockoff or a copy. We want to go and we want this to be its own thing. So certainly when we think about a lot of those things, we don't think, oh, we have to do that because like the old games did it.
But I do think there'll be some rhyming in there somewhere.
I'm sure something will rhyme.
Something will rhyme somewhere, I'm sure.
All right. Now, I believe you recently said the scope of the game is even bigger than Banjo-Kazooie. So can you? Is that something that came out recently, or has that always been your game plan this entire time?
No, it was obviously the original game plan was to make a much smaller game that would have been PC only. And have less worlds and less features and stuff like transformations that we're able to do in the Kickstarter, which is a really tangible example of how the backers have improved the game. Having the characters transform into a different washing machine or something, and this has a whole new set of animations, and that's expensive, like in terms of time and budget. That's something that we just simply wouldn't have done without the Kickstarter. So we have a plan in place for stuff like, you know, how many moves they're going to be and what they are and how you'll get them and what the worlds are and stuff like that. Yeah, so we know it's going to be bigger than banjo-kazooie, of course. I think in the Kickstarter we've committed to I think it was more than 5 or 6 worlds, but you also be able to expand all of those.
Right.
So if we wanted a really big number on the back of the box, we'd say, oh, there's 12 worlds. But let's see how it goes.
Right, makes sense. And can you briefly describe how you came about with the visual style for the game? You know, it's obviously very colorful, very inviting, really.
Well, I guess that's like, you know, that's what we do.
Yeah,
you know, so,
right.
You know, just, you know, with Steve Mills and Steve Hurst, you know, Steve Hurst was the background guy on banjo-kazooie, you know, best background guy at Rare. Steve Mills is a great character artist. So, you know, those two guys together just make that kind of thing.
It's a simple answer to that, and this is a Stephen Hurst and a Steve Mills game.
Yeah.
This
Right.
is what they do. They've not been given any instruction. They've sat down and they've made it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that leads to my next question then. Have you ever considered a cheat code for putting giant googly eyes on everything?
There probably will be anyway. So it'd be cheat code to take them off.
We've actually got some really cool ideas for googly eyes, which you will see in due course.
All right, googly eyes with googly eyes.
Extra eyes.
And have you? I believe one of the stretch goals was for a multiplayer mode. Have you put any thought, or do you know what that's going to be at this point?
Well, not yet. I mean, we've had some ideas. I mean, obviously, we have the ball move in the game, and this is a good example actually of how you know, one idea leads to another, where the camera's not really working in a kind of test build, and then we worked out that, all right, it's actually quite fun to just like race around with the ball. So you could like instinctively imagine how you might have like a racing game. You know, in this sort of mold, there might be like a quest where you have to race someone. So that's one idea. I mean, certainly we'll listen to the audience. We know that predominantly people want to play this as a single-player game. The feedback that we did hear that we are quite passionate about is that we hear a lot of people say they play the game with their partner, and they would quite like to be able to have someone else to participate in the main game. So we're going to have something similar to that in there, like where maybe a second screen, like Wii U gamepad or something, or a second controller that you can participate in the experience.
Oh wow! Very cool.
This is just one we read from an article today that at one point, an article with The Guardian, you guys said you knew what Rare was working on and would be open to working with Rare at some point to help them sort of finish off. How would that be possible with such a small team?
I think Gavin actually came out and he to clarify that and said that I think he didn't mean that in a literal sense for what you expect. He didn't mean like collaborating on a game. I think he meant like if they wanted to like put one of our characters, if they did you imagine theoretically if they ever did a banjo game again, if they wanted to like put Yooka-Laylee in there as a cameo, we would be open to collaborating with them on that. But no, I don't think we would ever, you know, co-create a game.
All right. And I believe you mentioned you're going to have 5 different sort of classic arcade games in Yooka-Laylee. Can we expect anything? So it's going to be like Klungo's Arcade in a way, or?
Yes, it will be like that. Not in a literal sense. It'll be more within our, you know, where his kind of spin-offs was like a pixelized retro style. You know, it was a deliberate parody, whereas ours will be like within the universe, the world. Like you imagine if like, you know, you're actually going through this you see now, you know, in a tank or something, you know, that sort of stuff.
All right, well, I think that is all our questions. So thanks so much for joining us here.
Thank you very much for your time.
Congrats again on your Kickstarter. Oh yes. And we can't wait to see more. We are super stoked to go hands-on with the game, and in its final form, especially, we're excited for it. So
I think, you know, we should just probably reiterate that, you know, genuinely from the bottom of our hearts, like we were so touched by the response from everybody. It's been really incredible. Like, you know, you can't put it into words. Like, the people to put their hands in their own pockets to do that is like the best. You know, like we are going to try so hard to make something that those people want to play. You know, we really are. It's like. It's a complete passion. Like I know how dedicated these people are. I've worked with them for 12 years, you know, like they're so dedicated. We're going to try our absolute best, you know. If it kills us, we're going to make it.
Sounds great. Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys.